Hollywood doesn't give a about minorities. They never have. At least nowadays, they pretend to. Let's talk about representation. More importantly, let's talk about a culture of misrepresentation. When you think about racist minority depictions in cinema history, a few examples may come to mind, whether it's Mickey Rooney at Breakfast at Tiffany's.
But that was 2 weeks ago. You cannot go on or keep ringing my bell. You disturb me. You must have a key made.
Or it's British actor Max Minghella being cast as Indian businessman Divya Narendra in The Social Network.
You see The Social Network? The Indian guy is a white guy. They use brown face makeup. No, I read that he's 1/16 Indian. We're all 1/16 something. I'm probably 1/16 black. You think they're gonna let me play Blade?
Or more recently, it's Scarlett Johansson being cast as the lead protagonist in the Western adaptation of the popular Japanese anime Ghost in the Shell. All of these are examples of whitewashing, which is when movies cast dominant white figures in the places of non-white characters. Whitewashing has always been prevalent in Hollywood. In fact, it's the basis of almost every major movie franchise. But why do we do it? There's no artistic gain, it's simply for marketability purposes. Think of it as modern colonialism in the digital age, taking stories or experiences away from minorities and turning them around for consumption under the pretense of them being white. I mean, do we really believe M. Night Shyamalan's version of The Last Airbender when it's the ultimate example of whitewashing a cast in order to jumpstart a franchise? So how can people of color combat this system? Well, in 2020, we've seen plenty of protests regarding police brutality and the injustices towards African Americans. A lot of the grievances aired out at these protests have been about representation. I mean, we finally saw the racist depiction of Aunt Jemima be laid to rest. But with all due respect, these are effects of the protest, and while it's great that they happened, these are just small steps towards more lasting change. That's where ReFace comes in. ReFace is a deepfake app that allows users to place their selfie onto a movie character or celebrity. So now, anyone can feel like they're Tom Cruise, or Spider-Man, or even the girl that lets Leonardo DiCaprio die. Notice how all of these are predominantly white actors? Well, this tool is perfect for people of color who want to feel represented or important in major movies instead of being the lousy sidekick or worse, an extra. The problem is that it's self-serving. At the very most, you're playing a clip for your friends and family and all having a great laugh about what it's like to see a Chinese Forrest Gump. And then you delete the app. It's not enacting change in the marketplace of mass media representation, it's just for your personal relief. Now, I know what you're thinking. You open up your Netflix and your top recommended shows all have extremely diverse casts. Well, placing a minority at the forefront of the Hollywood spotlight would have been a really surprising idea just a few years ago, but nowadays, with modern pandering, not so much. Sure, we've come to the point where we can have all black or all Asian casts in one or two major movie blockbusters, but keep your eye on the ball. This is pandering for the sake of pleasing the masses at the surface level. Take a quick look at Facebook's board of directors. Is there anything off about this picture? How about Netflix? Okay, maybe that was a coincidence. What about Pixar? Disney? Disney made Pocahontas and Mulan. Surely they must be inclusive. Only about 1% of these executives from these major entertainment companies would ever need a tool such as ReFace to feel represented in their own movies. The rest of them are probably hiring their nephews and nieces for the parts. Michel de Certeau's notion of making do concerns the ways in which ordinary people navigate the systems in which they are a part of, and how they are able to subvert the powers that be through everyday practice. When it comes to tackling hegemonic monoliths, that's the endgame. Day by day, small steps towards normalizing diversity in every sphere will subvert the hegemonic systems in which we reside in today. With all that being said, apps like ReFace are a direct response to what Ronald Hall calls bleaching syndrome. This is when minorities internalize a preference for dominant white culture, and instead they grow contempt for darker skin colors. But what if every major Hollywood movie were to be led by minorities? Over time, this would completely normalize diversity not only in the entertainment sphere, but maybe all of society. The thing is, as I mentioned before, this has already started to happen. Ever since the Oscars got called out a few years ago for being too predominantly white, there's been an arms race to find the most diverse cast and to be the wholesome, heartwarming story in the news. It just feels a little empty when the people behind these diversity movements are the same hegemonic white figures that have always been in positions of power. They just needed to save their asses from getting cancelled. Maybe the decisions of mainstream diversity representation in entertainment shouldn't be in the hands of someone that has never left their mansion in Beverly Hills. The scholar Clemencia Rodriguez once talked about citizens media. This is a type of media that contests social codes and institutional relations in the hope that community empowerment may leave room for social change. And what better example of contesting social codes than the role of a comedian? For years, this has been the place for people to play on the border of offensive and funny, and more importantly, not give a damn about being politically correct. In my eyes, there's no one that has done a better job of this than Dave Chappelle, who has made a career out of playing with expectations of racial stereotypes while simultaneously evoking a sense of community amongst minorities and their shared experiences in white America.
One time racism saved my life, man. I was on a plane, and I don't know how this guy got a machine gun on the plane, but he stood up, man. He said, "Everybody, get on the f***ing ground. Nobody look at my face." I started freaking out. Because he was Chinese, I was like, why is he talking like that?
But the thing is, not everyone can contest social codes in such a funny way. It's limited to the masses. I myself could never be Dave Chappelle, even if he has tried to be me before.
And for the rest of my life, I had to go around making that face. Hey, everybody, I'm Chinese! And everyone get mad. Stop making that face. That's offensive. What? This is how I feel inside.
So what is something that everyone can participate in? Let's say that every person of color uses the globalization power of their smartphone to broadcast a reface of themselves out into the world. I'm talking Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you name it. Every social media movement is spearheaded by a hashtag, something that the followers can adhere to, something that's quick and easy. Let's call it hashtag ReFaceTheNorm. Every misrepresented minority can post onto these sites using the hashtag. Best case scenario, we flood the media with photos of minorities in roles they're not used to seeing. Maybe we could even reface the people in positions of power. Worst case scenario, our attempt at claiming agency over diversity in mass media flops, and we're subjected to the slow change at the hands of the same people whitewashing movies to make an extra buck. Thanks for watching.